this, so we will post this on the Sacramento AAJA Facebook page. So welcome to the AAJA Sacramento celebration of Lonnie Wong. I'm Ryan Yamamoto, formerly of ABC 10, now morning anchor at Como News in Seattle. I will be your host for tonight, even dusted off the tuxedo, and yes, I am wearing pants. Tonight's celebration, of course, is presented by Comcast. Comcast, which is the champion of diversity, has been a longtime supporter of our chapter, and we appreciate their investment in our work. Lonnie will be inducted later on tonight in the Silver Circle to the Honor Society of the San Francisco Northern California Academy of Television Arts and Scientists. But before that, we want to take the time to celebrate him. Lonnie marks 40 years at Fox 40 this year. He helped found AAJA Sacramento in 1985 and has served on the chapter board every year since then. In 2016, he received the Lifetime Achievement Award for AAJA National for demonstrating courage and also demonstrating a commitment to the principles of journalism and dedication to issues important to Asian Americans and the Pacific Islander community. So now first, I would like to welcome Tuan Lam, who will share how Lonnie has impacted him.
Host for PBS and later teaching. Hey everyone, my name is Tuan Lam. I'm a journalist, storyteller, and one of the biggest Lonnie the Legend Wong fans out there, and I'll tell you why. When I was in kindergarten, that was about 37 years ago, Lonnie came to my elementary school in South Sacramento, Kennedy Elementary, to talk about being a TV reporter. And I remember as a little boy, I was thinking, wow, somebody out there that looks like me on TV that isn't Oprah or LeVar Burton. Y'all remember Reading Rainbow? And this left an indelible mark on me because my parents wanted me to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. And I have to say that it's because of Lonnie, I did not listen to my Asian parents and pursued a career in TV reporting, becoming a co-host for PBS and later teaching, thanks to Lonnie. And we're going to hear about Lonnie's story in just a little bit in his video story, but when you ask Lonnie to talk about his more than 40-something years in the business, he won't talk much about himself. What he will say, and I have it on record here, he says, I didn't realize what kind of effect that my on-air presence would have on the AAPI community, that how empowered and how people say they felt so heard and seen, seeing him on the local airways often. And words cannot even express how true that is and how much that him coming to spend his time speaking to our class in South Sacramento meant to me. And I'm sure that he's meant a lot to you guys as well. And I just wanted to take a moment to say, Lonnie, thank you so much for being a friend, someone I look up to, eventually a colleague, and congratulations on this Silver Circle Award. Now let's take a quick look at Lonnie's story.
For the 10 o'clock news, I'm Lonnie Wong reporting. Closing in on 48 years in the broadcast news business, the first few years now seem kind of a blur. I started as a radio reporter for the student radio station at UC Davis after I got bored with going to class. Because I commuted from Sacramento, it was easy for me to cover events at the state capitol right around the time Ronald Reagan was finishing up his second term as governor. I covered state politics for the likes of KPFA and Pacifica Radio in Berkeley and KCBS in San Francisco, among others. I was one of the rare minorities in the huge Capitol press corps at the time. I gravitated toward working freelance crew assignments for San Diego and Los Angeles TV stations. I also got gigs working for national news crews just as film was transitioning to videotape.
The exciting world of TV 40.
I latched on with KTXL TV 40 in 1980. It was known more for staging and syndicating big-time wrestling in its studios. TV 40 also staked its identity on one of the biggest movie libraries on the West Coast.
Got a good one for you tonight. It came from beneath the sea.
I worked with other relative newcomers to TV news, including Milwaukee radio host Pete Wilson and a former UNLV basketball recruit by the name of Gary Radnich.
Your favorite team tonight, Pete. What happened?
Well, it's just the third game.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
During my time, I hosted and produced several talk shows and was the news assignment editor, but was primarily a street reporter. Of course, because of my background at the state capitol, I was the go-to guy when it came to political reporting. After all, I started toward the tail end of Governor Ronald Reagan's term and have continued right through the current governor. I think that makes 7 governorships. I never can figure out if I should count Jerry Brown twice. That would make 8. It's the variety that keeps you going. With a camera person in tow, you got a front row seat others could only dream of. This team is a hit on this very first opening day of this first year for the Sacramento Kings. I was actually the de facto sex reporter for a time. A clitoris is not just a small penis. A woman's sexual organ is sensitive, so don't be heavy-handed, guys. And if you are in the business long enough, natural disasters will come your way, whether it's wildfires, droughts and floods, or, of course, earthquakes. But there will always be scars left over as reminders of the quake of '89. And once in a while, some stories just fall into your lap.
Oh no.
Like an airplane that crashes while your camera is rolling. Emergency crews arrived at the scene minutes after the crash. They found one person unresponsive and another trapped inside. Being a child of immigrants, I felt it was important through the years to bring a different perspective to issues that affect the Asian Pacific Islander community.
They're directed at Asians with a specific racial content.
My work led to a greater involvement with community and nonprofit organizations, some of which I helped found in the Sacramento area. And I got great satisfaction from working with the Asian American Journalists Association and its Sacramento chapter to support veteran journalists and mentor broadcast students, many of whom have found rewarding careers in broadcasting. All breaking stories eventually cease being current affairs and instead become part of history. And one of the special aspects of working in television news for so many years is you can say you've witnessed historical events firsthand. And it's an honor to be recognized for that kind of longevity.
Okay, so let's bring in Mr. Lonnie Wong, the man of the hour, as we celebrate his long career. Lonnie, how you doing?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. It was
So
kind of tough condensing 40-something years into 3 minutes, but
So my first question, because I can't let you off the hook. You were the sex reporter?
I've done a lot. Yeah. Well, I don't know why. I was just pigeonholed. You know, throughout your career, I was pigeonholed as the political reporter, but other beats as well. And so, yeah, I did a lot of those stories. Gee, must have been a dozen of them or so. You know, everything from porn videos to masturbation to it went on and on. This is you know, when we were struggling to get ratings, and obviously any kind of stories that were quote unquote ratings magnets is the kind of stories we did.
Yeah, people had no idea this is going to be this type of virtual celebration. But all kidding aside, growing up in the Sacramento area, what inspired you to go into journalism?
You know, I wish it were some altruistic thoughts that I had, but I just thought it was fun. I started out in radio, and basically you got to go places and meet people that other people didn't. And so, and the technology back then, it was a reel-to-reel tape recorder in hand, and you got to go behind the yellow tape, so to speak. And so it was fun and interesting. Is basically what it was. And then once you got into the business, you realize what kind of effect that you had on the audience, and what kind of stories you can bring, and what kind of changes to society that you can present to viewers. So that part of it actually came later. For me, it was just the excitement and fun of covering stories and going to places and meeting people that ordinary people don't get to do.
So who were your role models? Who did you look up to while growing up before you went into the business?
Obviously, you look at other Asian reporters, of which there were very, very few. Mario Machado was not necessarily a news guy, but he's one of the first sports people on network. He covered soccer back in the day when I think it was CBS was trying to get soccer going, and he was a sports commentator, later did some news. Ken Kashiwahara, obviously, Sam Chulin were early network folks that you eyed right away and said, hey, you know, that's really unusual, and it's something I could possibly do. Of course, the sort of legacy San Francisco reporters. You're from San Francisco, I know. David Louie and Vic Lee, and later on Lloyd LaQuesta, and those folks obviously had an influence on me as well.
And you talk about some of the legends that you mentioned, like Lloyd LaQuesta, Vic Lee, David Louie. What was it like going through the business with them? Yeah,
I mean, it was, you never know what a guy is like until you actually meet them. And through the Asian American Journalists Association is where I first met those folks. Later on, I would meet them in the field because obviously the San Francisco and Sacramento markets kind of overlap. And so I covered a lot of stories with Lloyd and Vic and on occasion David. And so I first met them through AAJA. And the nicest people you could imagine, and ordinary folks basically, just like me. And so it was I wouldn't say it was a surprise, but it was comforting to know that there are folks out there like me that weren't they weren't pretentious, and they'd help you whenever they could, and it was just ordinary people. And so I took great satisfaction in discovering that once I had met them.
You started your career at Fox 40, then TV 40 in 1980. Do you actually remember your first story?
I don't actually. I do remember covering the early story. I think it was 1980, Humphrey the Whale, when it was roaming the Delta. Political stories right off the bat, of course, because I had already been doing that. And I think here's the thing that really kind of threw me for a loop, because I had worked freelance television for, at that time, networks. They had bureaus in Sacramento for LA stations and the networks. And we were a freelance crew, and a union crew, so it cost them money to hire us, and they wouldn't hire us unless it was a big story. So I was used to covering big stories, whether it be fires, Prop 13 way back then was a big, huge national story, other national stories. And then when I got hired at Channel 40, it wasn't Fox 40 at the time, there was no Fox network. I was covering stories like, tigers born at the zoo and supermarket openings. And so I had trouble navigating that. I knew my way around big stories, and that was the difference with the other young reporters there. They worked their way up in smaller markets, but I always felt comfortable covering big stories where there were national crews and other local crews around. And that never bothered me, but getting into the smaller stories and how I was going to navigate, telling a compelling video story took a while for me to get used to.
What would you say are some of your most memorable stories?
I think the big disasters, of course, come to mind, because those are so huge. The Oakland Hills fire, the Napa Valley, the first Napa Valley fire. There was one earlier this year, but I think in 1980, there was one that burned 65 homes just above the Napa Valley. One of the stories I remember is covering the reparations hearings in San Francisco. And there were busloads of Japanese Americans from the Sacramento area that actually went there to testify. And I took a bus trip with them and did a story with them. And it wasn't until years later that the reparations happened. It was a long, long struggle. And just to sit in that bus and hear the stories about the internment camps was really eye-opening. A lot of those folks are no longer with us because that was 40 years ago. But back then, people were just, the older folk, people who were interned were just beginning to talk about their experiences after hiding it for so many years. And that was memorable. The big story that I tell people about was the Northridge earthquake. And I tell people that was a story that was actually too big for TV, meaning that I would go to places where I was the only camera crew because there was so much widespread devastation. There are camera crews that didn't get to huge areas of destruction for 3 or 4 days, maybe a week, until a week after it happened, because there weren't enough TV crews to go around. And so there, everywhere you look, there was damage. And I thought it was really odd that we drive through areas and, you know, there's an apartment building crashed to the ground, fires burning, the streets were flooded. And we would say that those pictures aren't good enough. There's better pictures out there, and you just keep driving. And inevitably you found more damage. So that was kind of a unique experience where there was so much widespread devastation.
You talk
There's
about
countless stories. I sort of estimated I've done something on around 10,000 packages.
10,000.
Yeah, 9,500, 10,000 packages. So I've done a lot of stuff. I was at Area 51 and saw strange things in the sky, you know, and it just goes, there's just so many stories I've covered that it's hard to pinpoint one.
That is a lot of stories, but you had mentioned reparations. As one of the few Asian American reporters at that time, did you feel a responsibility to cover Asian American issues?
Oh yeah, and a lot of times those stories came to you, again, because you're on the air, you have an Asian face, community members would come to you with story ideas and also invite you to their fundraisers, and so you get to know a lot of local people, and that's how I sort of got involved in the Asian Pacific Islander community in Sacramento, and involved with a lot of the organizations, probably unlike a lot of other on-air Asian American reporters at the time who would, and you know this, you get invited to MC a dinner and or an award ceremony, or just to be there as a guest. But I actually served on the board of many organizations to sort of did sort of the hands-on work with organizations, helped found a few, and so I was for years was quite involved in many aspects of the Asian American community, and you do feel responsibility to sort of bring a different view, you know, to stories that other stations were covering, but with a little less perspective than you would have.
I always remember you running around during the Pacific Rim Festival, trying to get that all organized and everything set up. But you talk about the community events. How many community events did you think you've emceed in your career? I
don't know. I had one time calculated that I did maybe 65 events a year. You know, sometimes it would be 2 a week, whether it be board meetings or other receptions or committee meetings. So it was sometimes like 2 a week, 2 to 3 a week sometimes, and sometimes on the weekend. So yeah, it was a really busy schedule, you know, and you know, I wasn't married at the time, so I just had a lot of free time and sort of decided, okay, this is how I'm going to spend my time. So.
And speaking of community groups, you were one of the founding members of AAJA Sacramento. That was formed back in 1985. I believe that's followed Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle. So why did you think it was so important to start a chapter in Sacramento?
Again, you know, I came at it from a different direction. Back then, there were Asian American reporters on each of the major TV stations and radio stations at the time. And we were running to each other on stories and chat just very briefly. And I thought it would be a good idea. I thought it would be important to sort of connect with those reporters and journalists in a more meaningful way, you know, so just as a form of support. Everybody has their own story, but there's a lot of commonalities as well in terms of, you know, the families you come from and the kind of perspectives you have, and trying to work that into your job. And I thought that camaraderie was important. And so once that was established, that, hey, you know, there are other goals that we have in terms of scholarships and bringing knowledge to the community in terms of getting press coverage and how to deal with TV stations, how to do interviews, all those kinds of things were important. But the first thing is to sort of have a group where everybody saw eye to eye and have that connection, so that that from the very beginning, the Sacramento chapter was a very strong organization.
And speaking of having representation out in the field, I remember as a young reporter in Sacramento, I don't know how many times someone called me Lonnie Wong. Are you Lonnie Wong?
Yeah, yeah.
And I said, no, I'm not Lonnie Wong, but thank you very much. I take that as a compliment. But I ask you that question, or this question, why does representation matter?
I think I've actually seen it in the field. It's not just a Asian Pacific Islander face. Is a non-white face. I would go to areas of town where there'd be a shooting or a drive-by shooting, and the cops would be there, the other TV reporters there, and in areas like that, the neighbors, you could see it in their eyes. They're suspicious of people in their neighborhood. What are you doing here? What do you want from me? And but when they see a non-white person, and you know, those reporters, I noticed this pretty often. They were hesitant to talk to. If it was a Black or Hispanic neighborhood or an Asian neighborhood, they wouldn't go to talk to neighbors. They were a little hesitant. You know, I don't know what they were afraid of. I would just go up and talk to them. And once you talk to them and say, hey, they're asking me questions, they want to find out what I know, and they're very open. And so that comfort level of being just a non-white person or an Asian American journalist, just the way you look and the fact that you're willing to talk to them breaks the ice so much. And so that gives you an idea of the kind of perspective you're able to gather, the news you're able to gather from just sort of being different.
More than 40 years in the business, 40 years at Fox 40, all one city, all one station. That doesn't really happen anymore. So many people do move around. What does it mean to you that you were able to accomplish that?
It's a big deal. I was telling someone earlier that the days when I ran track in high school many years ago, I ran cross country, and back then the cross country course, and it still is like 3 miles or so. And back then that was considered a huge. No one ever ran 3 miles. They thought you were nuts, you know, crazy. And nowadays, you know, grandmothers run with their grandkids in strollers. They'll run 3 miles, you know, twice a week or 3 times a week with no problem. But they used to give you a medal for just finishing 3 miles, and it was called a survivor's medal. And so I'm definitely a survivor. I tell people that, you know, as you know, as being an on-air person, this is a very volatile business, especially in markets like this where people are constantly chasing ratings, and they're looking for another news director to bump the ratings. They want their own people. You're on a 2 or 3 year contract. You're out just because they want new people. And I tell people I've been almost fired 3 times, and which is not unusual. There are very, very successful people, as you know, in the business that have been fired many, many times and move on to bigger and better things. But it turns out that my bosses were fired before I was, so I survived them. And so it's very unusual to have a person, an on-air person, as you know, to stay with one station that entire time. And I did it because, you know, Sacramento's my home, my family's here. I was connected to the community, and you know, it's this size of market, medium, large market, where you can actually earn a living. Whereas if you work in Bakersfield, it's a very low salary, and you have to move on if you want to raise a family and things like that. So I've been fortunate to be able to work in my hometown for all these years.
You talk about survival. Your job today, you've actually gone back to an MMJ model, meaning that you shoot, edit, produce all of your own reports. So how have you been able to adapt and persevere through all these years?
Well, I was lucky that I started on the technical side. I was a sound technician and later a cameraman. I shot film, which is a whole different format, and we transitioned to videotape, many iterations of videotape, and now small SD cards. So I had that experience before, so I kind of knew how to do it. It does get very busy. I don't think you do as good some parts of that job you sacrifice, but the more experience you have, you kind of know how to divvy up your time and your focus. and what you can get away with, and how to structure a story before you even go out there. And so that the experience helps, and you each have to change with the times. I mean, TV is eventually, well, TV was the big thing. It took over from radio, which was the big thing, right? You can't beat TV. You bring live stories to someone's home at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Can't be beat. And all of a sudden the internet comes and people are getting news on their phone whenever they want. And pretty soon it'll be virtual reality with 3D technology. And they're going to bring audiences to the congressional hearing or to the hurricane or to the fire. And they might even implant stuff in your brain to make that experience even more real. If you think it's crazy, think how crazy what we're doing now was 20 years ago. So all that's going to happen sooner or later. And so it's all about changing the change is a big part of the business. So you sort of have to change with it if you want to stay in it.
So on that note, I'll put you on the spot. How much longer do you plan to stay in the business? Are we going to go for 50?
No, I mean, I'm closing on, on 48, I'll probably retire in another 3 to 6 months, I think. I never thought I'd get to 40 years at Channel 40 because it was a nice round number, right? I thought, 20 years is a long time in this business, and people move on to other communications jobs and other kinds of endeavors, and all of a sudden it's 40 years, and I could keep going for a while, but I think that's my time frame right now. Things always change. I don't plan very well. That's why I've been doing this thing for 45, 48 years.
Well, you look good, and that's a good thing because Asians don't raisin. Other than maybe a couple new hairdos here and there, still
did
look
you notice
the
the big hair in that video?
Yeah.
So
you should bring it back. So Lonnie, once again, we say congratulations to a long, incredible career. Congratulations to your induction to the NATAS Silver Circle. And now others would like to share their own congratulations, beginning with a very special someone.
Lonnie, it is Mayor Darrell Steinberg. I want to take just a moment to congratulate you on your induction into the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Silver Circle. What a great honor. I guess that silver implies that you've reached a certain age, and like me, you have been around Sacramento for quite a while now. It's hard to believe that this is your 40th year now at Channel 40. It is a remarkable run that you should be proud of, your entire community is proud of. A remarkable run on local TV. You've covered all of the eras of Sacramento, so many changes. And I appreciate personally your consistent approach. You're thorough, you're fair, you're friendly, you're hard-hitting, and you do the job in a way that shows that you love the Sacramento community. I also want to thank you for always looking after the next generation and for your work helping young journalists grow through the Asian American Journalists Association that you helped found. You're a great guy, you're a great journalist, and I wish you nothing but continued success as you get to 50, 60, and 70 years in local television. I wish you nothing but happiness in whatever you choose to do. Congratulations, Lonnie.
Congratulations, Lonnie. Your service is remarkable. We are so proud of you, and you deserve this and so much more. Thank you for everything that you've done for Fox 40. Again, congratulations.
When I arrived in Sacramento a few years ago, Lonnie, I went to interview then Governor Jerry Brown. The first question he asked me is, what station are you from? I said, Fox 40. And he said, oh, you're from Lonnie Wong station. So you are a legend. Congratulations. This is well deserved.
Lonnie, you may not know this, but when I first got here many, many years ago, I used to watch your stories from the night before each and every day. You helped teach a young reporter the right way to cover news stories, and you've been doing it ever since. You're a legend. Congrats.
Lonnie, congratulations. You've had a career in journalism that most people can only hope for. People trust you, and more importantly, they like you. Everything good coming your way. Congratulations, Lonnie.
Lonnie was actually the very first person that greeted me the first time I walked into the newsroom here at Fox 40. And that was a while ago, and he has been a great colleague ever since. Just a really good guy, very conscientious about the job. This is an award that is very much deserved. As far as being a reporter is concerned in the news business, to this day, from the first day I met him, Lonnie has been more than solid. If there is a big news story that needed to be covered and you had to tell both sides of a controversial issue, believe me, Lonnie Wong would be your guy. He's the best. Congrats, Lonnie. You deserve this.
Lonnie, congratulations from all of us at Fox 40 on this great recognition from NATAS. It's a great honor, shows a remarkable career for so many years. We can't thank you enough for your professionalism and enthusiasm for this business and for all that you've done for us here at Fox 40 in your distinguished career. Congratulations.
Here's the deal, Lonnie. We're all really proud of you. Congratulations.
Hi everyone, I'm Rowena and I've worked with Lonnie for the past 17 years, close to 18 years at Fox 40. Congratulations, Lonnie. I am so grateful for your friendship and how you've guided me since my first day at Fox 40 when I started on the assignment desk. All these press releases were coming in, especially from the state capitol, and I did not know what was a story and was not a story. Lonnie was able to tell me, this is a VO, this is a VOSOT, oh, this is definitely a package. Just simple things like that that Lonnie can do without even thinking about it meant the world to me, and you have really shaped me as a reporter, Lonnie, since I have been there, and again, I'm very grateful to you. God bless you. And please, like I always say, don't ever retire from Fox 40 because that would make me the oldest reporter.
Hey, my name is Gia Vang, and I met Lonnie when I was an AAJA student member more than a decade ago at Sac State. And since then, Lonnie, you have continued to inspire. You are still a rock star.
Lonnie, what can I say? Long before I came to Sacramento, I was told you were the man, and they were right. Thank you so much for all you've done for AAJA and for the community in general. Love you, man.
Hi, Lori Matsukawa from Seattle. First of all, congratulations, Lonnie. What a wonderful honor and so well deserved. The best thing about Lonnie Wong is his big heart. He's always there to welcome the stranger at the AAJA convention, and he's there to welcome the aspiring journalist who wants advice and mentorship. Lonnie is the first to just step up and step in. Congratulations again. We're so proud of you.
Lonnie Wong, Curtis Kim, San Francisco Bay Area chapter, KCBS anchor and reporter. So, 40 years. You know, I can't remember when we first met. It was probably at an AAJA function of some kind, but, you know, it goes back many, many years. But you, 40 years at the same station, which backs up what we've always been saying behind your back. Lonnie cannot get a job anywhere else. Networks don't want him. Other television stations don't want him. So he's stuck at the same station in the 20th major market in this country for 40 years. But you made the best of it. You did the best you could. And now, looks like retirement is in the offing. Probably more for the station than you. But you did have a stellar career. But there's always been one thing between you and me that I've never mentioned. That yours is bigger than mine. And you know, when we go to those functions and we're in together with a lot of people, I keep thinking, why is yours bigger than mine? And sometimes when I'm alone and there's nobody around, it still haunts me. Yours is bigger than mine. Well, I think I've tried to get over it. I mean, I put my Lifetime Achievement Award in a bigger frame, and I've tried to make it look bigger than it is. But your award is bigger than mine. And I guess I'll just have to live with that. Here's to 40 more years, Lonnie. Enjoy. Have a good time. Make the best of it. And thanks for being on the show.
Hi everyone, my name's Natalie Wong. I've known Lonnie pretty much my whole life. I've had the privilege as his daughter to learn more about the real world from him. He's taught me a lot of really important skills like public speaking, how to make a compelling argument, effective writing, how to make ramen as a college student. That's something that's really important to me. But in all seriousness, I am really proud of my dad and how much dedication he's shown in the Sacramento community. I've grown to love his sense of adventure and how he effortlessly communicates, connects, and engages with people from the community. And that's something that I hope to take with me as I continue learning and growing. Congratulations, Dad. I love you. You've done a great job.
Oh my God, Natalie is so, I remember Natalie when she was just a little child.
That was a big surprise. Wow. Thanks, everyone. Boy.
Yeah, so I know we have a lot of people that joined us on this Zoom chat celebration. And so we would also like to open up the floor to share, if people would like to share their own stories about Lonnie Wong. So if you want to, please raise your hands and we'll go ahead and bring up your camera and your microphone. But first, let me bring in our chapter president, Sandy Louie, to share her own story.
Hi, all. This is Sandy Louie. I'm the chapter president for AAJA Sacramento. And for me, my first memory of Lonnie occurred basically about 20 years ago when I first got to Sacramento in the spring of 2001. And I was a new reporter with the Sacramento Bee, and I was supposed to, was surprised that I got volunteered to produce the 20th anniversary luncheon in San Francisco for the Bay Area chapter who's hosting the convention in 2001. I called Lisa Chung, who was the convention co-chair, and basically was like, I don't know anything about producing a luncheon. I don't know how to write a script. I'm a print reporter. And she's like, don't worry, I've got somebody to help you. Somebody named Lonnie Wong. And for more than 20 years, that kind of caring, generosity of spirit and friendship is something I will treasure. So, but again, and look, Lonnie, 20 years later, I'm still producing now. So thank you for all you do.
Okay, I see a couple of people are raising their hands. So if we want to bring them up and have them say a few words, please join our chat session. Or maybe this is just the world of Zoom and we can't figure it out right now. Because it is 2020.
This has been a really big surprise. Really gratified to hear from so many old friends and people I've worked with and spent some time with over all these years with AAJA and the conventions and such. You know, actually, Curtis Kim's son was actually one of my students, and he's an editor. I think he's still a sports editor in New York, Cameron. So he was one of my broadcast mentees.
Hey, Lonnie.
Hi.
Doris, I'm calling in from St. Pete, Florida, and I was just texting with Cameron about his dad and the award size situation, and he sent a lot of emoji responses. But congratulations, you've been such a fixture of AAJA for me. I'm not a broadcaster, but I think that you've always welcomed everyone just as warmly. You've been an amazing mentor, an amazing friend. I've loved every time I've been to Sacramento, you've come and joined me at usually Matt Dunn's yard. And I want you to keep working so you can get in that gold circle. You just need 2 more years, Lonnie.
2 years is a long time. Thank you, Doris.
Okay, just chime in here.
Yes, please.
Okay, hi, David Louie down in San Francisco. Just wanted to say congratulations, Lonnie. I already put my remarks in the chat area, but you know, you are truly a legend. You've done so much for AAJA. You've done so much in terms of mentoring so many young people through the years. You're truly a pillar of the community in the Sacramento area. But most of all, you've got 10,000 more stories in you. I know you do. So you better not retire. And you, as Doris points out, you will qualify for the gold circle very, very quickly. So you've got, you know, and that happened for me last year. And so you got to do it. You got to join us. It's lonely company in the gold circle. So you can do it. Come on.
It certainly is elite company, David. So.
Congratulations.
Thank you. course, I wanted to say that David came to my kindergarten class and inspired me, but that wouldn't be quite true.
Yeah, I still get those people. I've been watching you since I was this tall. You know, that really hurts when you get to a certain age.
Yeah, well, you must have the same experience as I do, because I run into people in the field and you know, they're gray and balding, and they come up to me and say, "Hey, Lonnie, I've been watching you since I was a kid." And I said, "Well, how old are you?" And they say, "I'm 56." You know, so they would have been, you know, 12 or something.
So what's your secret, Lonnie? Why is it you still have a full head of hair and I don't?
Well, it's all comparative. If you saw some of my video, I used to have a lot more. So.
Hey, Lonnie, it's Bobby Colvon. Can't see myself here because I hid myself and I don't know how to unhide myself. So I wanted to ask you a question, though. I mean, when I was, you know, I'm not that young, but, you know, I wanted to be a broadcaster back in the day, and there were no role models. And suddenly I moved to California, to the Bay Area, first of all, and then to Sacramento. And then I see all these Asian faces. And I'm kind of wondering whether or not all these Asian faces came all at once, or what were some of the dynamics that got a whole group of you, like David Louie, Vic Lee, and yourself?
You know, my own theory is, you know, back in the day, you know, the FCC television licenses was a privilege to be awarded to a group, a business group that said, we will serve the community. As you'll remember, news was a money-losing thing that TV stations had to do. Well, we got to serve the community. We'll put on this 5-minute newscast, or this 15-minute newscast. And it didn't make any money. And when they discovered that people were tuning in, and it became a money-making operation, that's when news kind of grew. But you know, there was a lot of back in the early days pressure from Asian American groups in Sacramento, for instance, and other markets that said, "Hey, your license is up for renewal every so many years. We're going to challenge your license because you're not representing the community." And these business people that own these money-making machines that were TV stations were really scared. They might lose their business because the FCC would take away their license and award it to somebody else. And that's when a lot of sort of forced representation happened. And I will tell people, a lot of local stations would not have hired minorities unless they were put under the gun. They were not altruistic in many cases at all. And so, and when I first started working at Channel 40, mine was a little bit different. Part of it was that. Part of it was that it was a new station. I think I was paid like less than beginning school teachers. And school teachers were only paid for 9 months of the year at that time. They didn't pay them during the summer. So it was like $12,000 or $13,000 or a year or something like that. So I have a feeling no one would take the job. But luckily for me, the news got better almost a year later. The salaries went up just a year later, and things continue to improve, including the quality of the news. So I think, especially in California, where there's so a large population of Asian Pacific Islanders, you saw more of that in California than you would say in North Dakota or Minnesota. You know.
Well, thank you for blazing so many trails.
Yeah. Thank you, Bobby. Appreciate that.
So does anyone else want to join in? Well, Lonnie, I will just say this. You've been a friend. You've been a mentor for me when I arrived in Sacramento as a young reporter. Also for my wife, Suzanne, who says hello. She's out in the field right now, working here in Seattle. And sorry, David, but I did, David Louie, I did grow up watching you and Vic Lee. So you were an inspiration for me in San Francisco. But I do want to open one last chance if anyone wants to join in.
I will. My view is a little wonky, so I can't tell if I can be heard.
Yeah,
okay,
we can hear you, Pam.
Nodding. Hi, Lonnie. I'll just be very brief and say thank you for all you've done for AAJA, for Sacramento, and for journalism. I met Lonnie when I was a wide-eyed AAJA student member, and I was in college, and Lonnie took me out for lunch at Fat City as part of this mentorship program that we had. And we talked about, you know, where I should be sending my tape. At the time, it was a 3/4 inch tape. And so that tells you how far back this was. It must have been in the mid 90s or so. But Lonnie was very real, and he was also very, very encouraging. And so when I look back at, you know, my broadcasting career and my career in news, I often think that I wouldn't be where I am, and I wouldn't have done what I did if not for AAJA. And Lonnie is definitely a part of that. So thanks for everything, Lonnie.
Thanks, Pam. Appreciate the kind words. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Lonnie,
that's
how
one
many
of the-
different? Well, Lonnie, how many different formats did you get to work with? Film, 3/4,
film, 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch had like 2 or 3 iterations from SX analog to digital, and then Channel 4 never got into 8mm, but we went into different digital formats. You know, I kid people when I started film cameras. I don't know if people remember, that's when there was actually an A roll and a B roll of film that we edited together. That's where the term comes from. But audio was electronic, but film cameras were mechanical, sort of like printing presses. And when they broke down in the field, you pulled out a screwdriver and started taking it apart because they were basically gears and belts, like a glorified sewing machine. So you could fix that. But it's like trying to fix a modern car these days with the new electronic cameras. You know, it's no longer as simple. So technology has really moved very far.
Well, Lonnie, we say once again, congratulations to the living legend that you are. 40 years at Fox 40, more than 48 in broadcast and in journalism, a true icon in Sacramento, and the Asian American Journalists Association. And of course, now a member of the Silver Circle to the Honor Society of the San Francisco Northern California Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. That induction, we do want to mention, will happen tonight. You can watch that NATAS event, Lonnie's portion slated for 8 p.m. So thank you to once again to Comcast and their dedication to diversity. And thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. And I think we have it. You're not retiring anytime soon. So we'll see you back here in 10 years when you're 50 years at Fox 40, at least another 2 years with 50 years in the broadcast industry. And then you can reach that golden circle and join that select group of legendary broadcasters, Lonnie. So congratulations once again.
Thank you, Ryan, for hosting, and thank you everybody for throwing this celebration on behalf of the Sacramento chapter and our fundraising, continued fundraising efforts, and Comcast for supporting events like this. So thanks everyone. Appreciate the kind words.
And a reminder, everyone, we are recording this event, so we will be posting this to our Sacramento AAJA Facebook page, so you can still watch it there in case if you missed it, or you can share it with other people to once again honor our living legend, Mr. Lonnie Wong. Thank you, guys.